Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's David Sherry. Productivity is not the point. Productivity is a byproduct. And many people, some of the most productive people I know, they're not focused on systems or hacks. They're driven, they're energized, they're enthusiastic. They do things without thinking about it being productivity. And yes, they make tweaks here or there to enjoy themselves more, but they don't need these productivity hacks. In fact, productivity hacks are really only there for when we don't have intrinsic motivation. Nobody is saying they need productivity hacks or they've got the latest productivity hack to go for a walk in the morning with their dog to get coffee, right? So productivity is useful when we have obligatory and external pressures that we don't feel intrinsically motivated to fulfill. This is very different than understanding your calling or your purpose or your soul's pursuit, which is much more joyful and internal. So if you're not productive, you could focus on productivity advice. You could say, I need to learn how to have a system and process that forces me to get more done. The alternative, though, instead of focusing on productivity, is to try one of two other things. The first is to change your mindset. The second is to change your context or your focus. Changing your mindset means seeing your work in a new light. We all have agency over how we see the events in our lives. We have agency over how we see ourselves in the world. Everything going on externally, we have a lens that we put on those external conditions or actions that we interpret that changes how we receive that information. This is our attitude, how we contextualize our lives, our point of view. And so it might be that somebody who's more productive has a different story about their work. If you've looked at other people and you've asked yourself, why do these people get so much done? Why am I struggling? Why am I stuck? How are they so prolific and yet I'm struggling? You might falsely believe that they have better productivity systems and tools, and they might have some of those, but it's more likely that they have a mindset about their work that leads them to be more productive. Now, sometimes that mindset might be somewhat painful and harmful, and they might be feeling some type of way about their work. And if they don't get it done, they're going to be feeling really sorry for themselves. Or maybe they just joyfully see their work as something they get to do and something they enjoy, right? Warren Buffett famously talks about enjoying his work, about dancing to work. And that's his mindset. He has a mindset about the work he does that says, I love to do this. And in that way, it makes all of the work actually easier. The second thing you can do is change your context. Change where you focus, change where you put yourself. And there's a great book on this subject called, I believe the title is Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. And the idea is to put yourself into a space, into a role where you naturally thrive. So instead of forcing yourself to be productive in an area that you don't like, you put yourself in an area that you are more likely to enjoy, making it easier to be productive. I have a friend, and I've told this story before, who worked at a big software company, and he was in sales. And every day he had to work up the courage to go to work. He said he had all these different things trying to get himself to get his work done, and he just felt like the laziest person ever. He never could get anything done. He was a low performer. He later co-founded a company, and he was one of the hardest working people I know. I mean, he would not stop working. He would stay up late. He was working too much. And so how did he go from somebody who couldn't work at all, who was lazy, who had all these productivity systems that were kind of failing him, to the hardest working person I know? He was in a 4-person startup. Instead of being in a large corporate setting, he was in a role that was more aligned with his excitement versus being in a role he didn't want to be in. It was so interesting to me to see one person be completely different, lazy to ultra productive, just by changing their context. So the second thing you can do is you can change your context, which means putting yourself in a place where you naturally thrive. And a way to pick up on this is to notice, where am I energized? Where am I drained? What topics are energizing? What topics are draining? What settings are energizing? What settings are draining? Some people really like being around people and that energizes their work, and other people, they need solo time. So if you do something that gives you energy, wouldn't it be easier to get more done than if you were doing something that was draining your energy? It's kind of a deep point to really consider. If you do something and it gives you energy, isn't it easier to get more done than if you do something and it drains your energy? Seems like almost like a physics problem and solution. I want to talk about one more thing, which is those productivity YouTubers. We all know the productivity YouTubers. My sense is that their zone of genius, their zone of joy is talking about productivity. So in a weird way, they're in their zone of genius, in the right context, in the right mindset, energized by the work that they're doing, talking about the topic, which is sort of a byproduct of this idea of productivity. They're enjoying being the YouTuber. And everyone else looks at them and says, well, how can I be more like them? But what they're missing is those people love productivity. Those people were almost born obsessing over productivity and loving YouTube. And so we watch them and we think, why is that not me? Part of what you're watching is them talking about a subject they love. And we take it as this thing of, oh, I must be more like them. That's not the lesson. The lesson is they're doing YouTube, talking about productivity because that's what they love to do. It's easy for them to do that. And yes, we can learn a little bit from that, but I think that's a more important lesson. It's a deeper lesson that they're enjoying what they do. So ultimately, sounds a funny way to say it, is love is the best fuel source for your productivity. Productivity hacks are other types of sources of fuel for your productivity, but they're a little bit more difficult to work with. They're not as consistent. They don't burn as hot. So when you love to do something, not only are you more likely to do it, but you also win twice in the sense that you really enjoy the process of doing something as well. And that's part of why I say productivity is not the point, because is the point of our lives to just have things be crossed off a list? Is the point of your life to get something done or accomplished? It doesn't seem to be that way to me. It seems that we should enjoy what we're doing while we're doing it. And actually, the outcome is somewhat of a secondary byproduct. And I've experienced this when I'm in flow. I've experienced this when I create something that I truly love. I actually care much less about how it's received. I care much less about the outcome. I'm just enjoying doing it. I almost forget about how other people are going to receive it. That's a great space to be in because you just enjoy doing it and it's productive, where it looks productive to the outside world, but to you, it feels enjoyable. It feels easy. So it's possible that focusing so much on productivity is a bit of an unnecessary step that you're adding into the process without evaluating bigger opportunities around mindset and context that could truly help you. And I'll leave you with one last quote. As Yoda wisely said, do or not, do not. There is no try. I love that quote. Have a great rest of the week. Leave me a comment if you have any thoughts or questions. How do you think about productivity? What do you most love to do? Which is maybe a more important question than how to get more productive. What do you most love to do? Would love to chat with you in the comments. Be back again very soon. Later.